Welcome to Pimpy's Investment Chat, where we keep investment talk simple. And here's your host, Pimpy.
What is going on out there, peeps? Oh yeah, wouldn't you like to have one of these in your collections? Iraq increasing their gold holdings. More BRICS nations are investing into gold. You should be doing the same thing too, especially after the announcements that are made today. Let's go ahead and get into this. Before we get started, do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button. If you're not a subscriber, please do so, because when you do, it helps out the channel, and I certainly do appreciate it. If you're thinking about buying gold and silver, head on over to our friends at Miles Franklin. The link will be down below in the description. When you make your purchase, make sure you use promo code Pimpy, P-I-M-P-Y, and they'll take care of you. If you have any additional questions, you can reach us over here at this phone number or over here at this particular email. For all orders over $10,000, reach out by email and we'll make sure that you get a great deal. So come on over to Miles Franklin and add to your precious metal inventory. It's kind of weird because over the last couple of days, there's been many people saying, come on, Pimpy, tell me, what is your gut feeling about the Iraqi Dinar? And I mean more than one person. And I said, look, I tell you guys the truth on my videos. I'm not going to lie about it. That's the thing about my channel that drives people crazy. I'm not going to blow smoke up your guys' ass. I think it's a great investment. My fingers are crossed that they will increase the exchange rate without removing the zeros. That's what I'm hoping for. Is that realistic? I don't think so, but we're going to find out here. There's a couple other things going on that we can talk about here as soon as we get into this. And I do like this. The SEC signs an important agreement with the IFS Foundation with these details. So the Iraqi Securities Commission signed today, Wednesday, the agreement on the Guide to Environmental, Social, and Corporate Governance with the IFC, a World Bank organization. The authorities said in a statement received by the news, the objective of the agreement is to promote and develop the investment environment in Iraq by improving regulations, environmental, social, and governance frameworks to comply with the international standards, enhancing the ability to implement and supervise its implementation in Iraq and contribute to the increasing investment attractiveness in the Iraqi stock market environment. So look, for me, it wasn't just about investing into the Iraqi Dinar. I also was very interested in investing into the stocks over there in Iraq. If this country is rebuilding, as they rebuild, the companies that are on a stock market, obviously, there's going to be an impact on these companies. They're going to grow. The value of these companies are going to grow. That's why I wanted to get in right away. And I've told you guys there's opportunities for people to get aboard. They've been close to the public for quite some time. I am talking about the Wise Investment and Holdings Group. If you guys want to get in on the stock market over in Iraq, give them a call, 850-520-2693. Just tell them Pimpy sent you. They're going to walk you through what you need to know and what you need to do to be part of the group. Do it now, because last time they didn't open to the public for years. So you definitely want to get in there now before things really start to take off. She added, to achieve this goal, coordination will be done with the Iraqi Stock Exchange through the supervision of the Iraqi Securities Commission to develop the Guide to Environmental, Social, and Corporate Governance to support the improvement of the performance of listed companies and put Iraq on the path towards a strong and sustainable economy, as the agreement included reaching a mandatory guide to apply to companies listed on the Iraqi Stock Exchange. Now, as of now, this group owns literally hundreds of millions of shares of multiple companies. Hundreds of millions of shares. The head of the commission said the preparation of a guide to social and environmental governance and corporate governance through a partnership with the International Finance Corporation improves the Iraqi investment environment by adopting international standards that evolve from the current investment environment in the ISX. Following the framework of environmental and social governance and corporate governance makes companies listed on the ISX more transparent and better performing and be more attractive to foreign investments. In the past, what would happen is they wouldn't meet the standards. And so when they don't meet the standards, they suspend these companies. So you'll see companies on there from time to time with no activities. That's because they're not turning over the proper paperwork needed to continue on the ISX. But it doesn't take long for them to turn around and get the paperwork in, and they're back trading all over again. He pointed out that the topic of environmental and social governance and corporate governance will be a focus of national strategy for investment awareness and support for the investment culture that the authority is working on and will be announced on October 1st of this year. So once they make this announcement, in my opinion, it's really going to take off. But for those of us who've already been aboard, this is your time. This is your time. Give them a call. For his part, the regional director of International Finance Corporation for the Middle East, Pakistan, and Afghanistan said, "We are excited to partner with the Iraqi Securities Commission in this important initiative that aims to help companies and banks mitigate the risk of environmental, social, and governance practices, improving long-term performance, sustainability, as well as attract investment and contribute to sustainable growth of the Iraqi Stock Exchange." He pointed out that during the process of preparing the manual, there will be workshops and meetings with relevant parties such as listed companies and brokerage companies. And those are the people that we're dealing with. What are the brokerage companies? The Iraqi Security Commission, as the regulator and monitoring stock activity and associated with financial activities and services, seeks to increase the contributions of the sector to the GDP and provide an investment environment that protects the rights of investors and other stakeholders. So if you want to get aboard, call that number. Come join us. Here we go. Saudi Arabia just ditched the US dollar. That's why earlier when I was speaking about that agreement Biden was supposed to be going into where we would provide security for Saudi Arabia, I thought it was interesting that he didn't put anything in there about the protection of the US dollar. Saudi Arabia will now sell oil in multiple currencies, including the Chinese RMB, the euros, the yen, the yuan, instead of exclusively in US dollars. This past Sunday, the Crown Prince bin Salman announced that he would not renew the contract, signaling a major change in the global financial landscape. This agreement, initiated after World War II, allowed the U.S. to control the world's energy, and its impact on the standard of living for Americans is substantial. The petrodollar system replaced gold as the standard of value and enabled the U.S. to maintain dominance over international trade. But you notice how it says impact on standard of living for Americans. That's why I keep telling people, your way of life right now is about to change. I've heard so many people go, no, I'm telling you, Pimpy, it's not. Oh, we're going to find out here. And this is very important, why you should be into gold and silver. But this also would obviously have an impact on our U.S. dollar. Add injury to insult, Russia Moscow Stock Exchange officially didn't say end, it says suspends all trading in U.S. dollars and euros. So when the Moscow Stock Exchange suspends all trades in U.S. dollars and Saudi Arabia starts selling oil in other currencies, it can have significant implications for the value of the U.S. dollar. Decreased demand for the USD. If there's a decrease in demand, the value of that currency usually drops. The suspension of trade in USD and Moscow Stock Exchange would lead to the decreased demand for the US dollar in the market. As a result, there would be less need for participants to hold on to US dollars in their reserves, potentially leading to the decrease in its value. That's why you better have gold and silver. It maintains its purchasing power. It will grow in value. And if we start to see a decrease in the US dollar, don't be surprised if we don't start seeing an increase in the exchange rate between Iraqi Dinar and other currencies against the US dollar. Diversification of currency reserves. Saudi Arabia's decision to sell oil in other currencies indicates a shift away from exclusively using the US dollar for oil transactions. This move encourages diversification of currency reserves among countries and reduces the reliance on the US dollar. As more countries start transacting in alternative currency, the demand for the US dollar may decrease further, impacting its value. Right now is the time to have precious metals. Impact on the global trade in financial markets. These actions by Moscow and Saudi Arabia could signal a broader trend towards reducing dependence on the US dollar in international trade. If more countries follow suit and start conducting transactions in other currencies, it could weaken the position of the US dollar as the dominant global reserve currency. Potential depreciation. With reduced demand for the US dollar due to these developments, there is a possibility that the value of the US dollar could depreciate against other major currencies. I know a lot of people have been rooting for this So that would increase the Iraqi dinar's exchange rate against US dollar. What we need to happen is for them to keep the zeros on and increase their value. Investors may start shifting their portfolios away from US dollar denominated assets, putting downward pressure on its value. Market reactions and volatility. The announcement of such significant changes in the currency usage can lead to an increased market volatility as investors reassess their positions and adjust to the new landscape. Uncertainty about the future role of the US dollar could further impact the value in the short term. Diversify. Gold, silver. Take a look at investing into the Iraqi stock exchange. Long-term implications. Over the long term, if more countries continue to move away from using the US dollar as the primary currency for international transactions, it could have lasting effects on its value and status as a global reserve currency. The conclusion is this: the combined effect of Moscow Stock Exchange suspending trades in US dollar and Saudi Arabia selling oil and other currencies is likely to put downward pressure on the value of the US dollar as demand weakens and diversification increases. So these announcements are new. So you still have time to move. You have time to respond before it's too late. As this slowly starts to affect the markets, you're going to see a decrease in the value of the US dollar. That's why you better be invested into gold and silver. Protect your purchasing power. So there is a lag time in everything. These announcements are new. It takes a little while for it to hit the market, but don't be surprised if you don't start seeing the Iraqi dinar go up in value. Like I said, what we don't want to happen is we don't want them to delete the zeros before the exchange rate goes up. That's why you got to be vigilant on paying attention to what the exchange rate is. This way then you don't miss out on opportunities for big returns. Iraq raises its gold possessions to more than 145 tons. Do as they do, not as they say. So congrats to Iraq. They have now increased from 142.6 tons during the month of May. They now have 145 tons of global gold reserves. So there's a lot going on, a lot to digest. We just got to keep an eye on the markets. But I cannot stress this enough. If you don't have your money into gold and silver, you should do it as soon as possible. Reach out to Miles Franklin. Give him a call. 844-874-6797. This is your time. I just had one of my listeners move $64,000 over into precious metals. They're doing all they can to preserve their retirement, their future, protect the family, to make sure they didn't get left behind. Because as the value of the dollar decreases, our whole way of living is definitely going to change. But you can hold on to your purchasing power by having gold and silver in your possession. Anyways, that's it for now. Look forward to hearing from you. I'm out.